It's the weekly 30-30 list on the ASX. We're looking at the top 30 momentum companies over the last quarter and the top 30 launchpad companies. These are companies whose momentum has improved over the last week. Gary Glover has been through the list and pulled out his favourites. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Chris.
Off air, you were saying you were reasonably happy with this list. Is it a good list this week?
Yeah, it was a good list there. Yeah, like oftentimes I don't get a chance because you sent it to me Thursday afternoon, so I get it early. And so oftentimes I sort of don't get a chance to look at it because I'm a bit busy usually. But I did get a chance to look at it yesterday, and that was trades opportunities, I thought, everywhere. And I did take a position off this list here. I'll give you a clue. It was sort of probably one of the lower ranked ones on the list, but it really just took by, I thought it was pretty good. And it's absolutely open this morning on a belter. So thank you.
Well, this is good news. We might just say if anyone can figure out or guess which one Gary picked, then comment below because that was a funny challenge last time. So going through it, obviously there's something in there that you like, at least one that you've traded. If we start with the quarterly momentum list, you've probably got one of the top ranked ones there on the screen. So what are we starting off with?
Yeah, so we're starting off with a new one there. So Total Brain Limited. So sounds, TTB is the code. So, you were just saying earlier actually that there's a lot of IPOs, like new stocks on the list here. You were sort of quite surprised. And I said to you, I'm actually not surprised because I sort of think this is the sort of IPOs from the last 12 months, even the last 18, 24 months is sort of, is where a lot of our new leaders will come from. So this is a list that we should be looking through, So I'll be starting to go through the new stocks, and I use the software which sort of picks up the last, has IPOs the last 18 months as part of like one of our watch lists. So definitely going to be looking at that list because there's sort of, there should be new leaders sort of starting to form here. So I know in the States, there are a few traders they were talking about, even some stocks that have been around for a couple of years, like Airbnb and Uber, things like that. Those are the sort of stocks sort of you should look at because they've even though they've been around a little bit, they're not around. They're still relatively young companies, so they stand still. And you mentioned actually to me a great example, Amazon. So in 2000, it was obviously around. There was quite new, but it had a big decline. But then that was the next big leader in the next bull market as well. So that was still pretty relatively young at that stage. So, just there's quite a lot of young companies in the list, which is good to see here. So, Total Brain's obviously a new one. SPA was number 2 on the list. Oh, there we go.
Spacetalk.
Which was Spacetalk. So some interesting names here on these stocks here. So I got to have a look at some of these in a bit more detail. That's interesting just because it's had a pretty decent pop here on some decent volume. Probably need to sort of have a bit of a pause there and just watch that one. But to me, I've just sort of added that on my list. I haven't wouldn't trade that one there. This is one that I did see have a pretty decent move as well. Maybe a little small. Has gone through a bit of consolidation here as well. So might need to do so as well. But a little small here. This one I missed here actually. Nuix. I was watching this. Sort of because there was a little VCP sort of starting to sort of set in here, and then we did break out here previously. It's like sometimes you're trading so much here. I was sort of talking about how many different lists I've got here that lose track of all the lists sometimes. But this did have a beautiful consolidation. Had a nice little move in here. You might have got a little concerned that this might have been exhaustive, but it managed to sort of kick on for a few days here before it had a cool off there. And what we see there's had a little AVC in here and very, very light volume. So not much selling here. So I saw a few traders that I follow online sort of talking about the stock here, but like people were probably like me scared to trade it here. But once it gapped up there, I don't know if you guys follow this move here, and obviously it's done pretty well. So. But that's the sort of type of thing here. We're building here, see some volume come in, and then a bit of a pause, and then pop there. So it's a good illustration as to sort of what sort of stuff we're looking for. Obviously, not always going to get a pop like that, but you're definitely looking for the building signs there, sort of starting to sort of see some volume,
With
starting to see a few high lows, and then start to break some of the old highs as well, like the B wave breaks. And
that high volume breakout in the last 4 days. So what Gil Morales and Chris Kutcher call the Bible gap up. So it just gaps up so much, trades on more than 150% of the average volume, and closes at its highs. So they actually be buying throughout the day and heavily into the close on the basis that that volume is huge that you're highlighting there.
Yeah, so I know like a lot of shorter term traders, so like day traders and stuff, they might take a trade like that. I know like a lot of guys will take a 3-day trade. So like, they'll just trade that signal in 1, 2, 3, or maybe get out in the 3rd day or something. But there is a nice good short term move on that. But no, you're right there. There's a few guys who do cover that trade there when they see a massive volume like that. So yeah, most of us are a little afraid to buy when we see a gap like that. But when you see the volume roaring through in a big move, and it was a bit of a fundamental sort of acknowledgement there as well. So next on the list there was C1X, which is Cosmosexploration, which is obviously I think relatively new as well. So let's make a volume here, Chris, through here. Maybe a little small, but yeah, again, this is probably just one to sort of watch here for have a breather there. But yeah, that's just something on the list there. AL3 had a bit of a pop there, but pretty small, bit choppy, hard to trade. VHM, this is sort of one I'm interested in here, just because it is sort of it is an early, has floated there. It looks like that's obviously the issue price up there. It's obviously been faded here, so probably just watching for see if this sort of washes out there. Just want to keep an eye on there. I think it's actually in that sort of rare earth space there. MCE. This one again had a bit of volume the last couple of days. A bit of a spike in there. So there's been some okay volumes in there. Probably a little small, but interesting there. I saw Marley Spoon actually on the list there, but I know it's had a little bit of a pop there. But those are sort of stocks. To me, it's like a yesterday's leader, Chris. A bit like EML and that sort of buy now pay later sort of stocks. I'm not sure they can really get going now. I think there's too much headwind.
All that overhead resistance, wanting to sell at any time.
Yeah. So always sort of wary with those sort of stocks there. DUG is actually one that's not been around that long. Had a nice sort of move here. It's a little choppy, pretty lightly traded here. Starting to see a bit of volume come in here now, so it's probably on a bit of a breather there. But definitely one I would probably put on my watch list just to sort of keep an eye on there. That's sort of, looks like a nice little sort of rounding bottom there. Got a little false break in here as well. I'm starting to sort of build here. Just the volume's coming in late here, so that always worries me a little bit when I see that high volume come in after the run. So might have a breather here, but definitely one to sort of keep an eye on. NWC, New World Resources there. Getting a small one as well. Some okay volumes through here. Something lightly traded there, but again, probably too small for me. So Weebit Nano is on the list there. It's had a bit of a cracking run there. I know a few guys who are following this, recommending this, so it's done quite well here. Getting pretty late, so I'd be cautious for that. AMD is another small one there, too risky. CNB, Carnaby Resources there, just sort of building there, but getting a little choppy. Last one on the list was sort of one that did catch eye a few weeks back. Has had a pretty decent move there. It's a pretty decent volume through there, Chris. So that's a little, it's a little 3-wave drive there. Pretty good volume through there. Bit of a cool off. Bigger volume here again. Maybe a little kind of exhaustive there. This was probably the heaviest volume week. But we're putting back here. The main thing here is we're putting back on lighter volume here. So this is definitely one to keep an eye on here because this is pretty constructive. One that's sort of kind of building on that list. There's some pretty good volume for a while. Breaking above a bit of a swing high as well. So yeah, so this is definitely one to be keeping a very close eye on there. So that's our quarterly list there. Where most of the action was for me was in the weekly list. There was a lot sort of going on here. CSX is sort of one that I just had a bit of a pop off the low, a bit small, ground back, and then sort of popped here and went going. So one to sort of keep an eye on there. Bit lightly traded, make it a bit hard to trade that. C29 was another one, that metal space there. Again, had a bit of a pop out of the range after a bit of a pullback there. Again, maybe a little lightly traded. CDT, maybe very lightly traded here. PEK actually sort of one that sort of did catch my eye just because there's a sort of bit of a VCP in here, Chris, sort of nice and sort of tight. It's a little small here, but did sort of gap through here on okay volume. I was looking at this yesterday. This was one of the stocks I was looking at trading here. Just pretty, it's a little thin. So if you were going to trade something like this, I just wouldn't go too hard. I sort of, there just wasn't too much stock on the bidder offer there. So it just made it a bit hard to sort of get in or out. So, but it did look good to me yesterday when I saw this list. I thought, well, that looks, sort of just some good volume in there for a stock that's pretty lightly traded. And that peak rare earth, so it's just a few of the new names, a few IPOs or a few companies that have changed direction there are doing all right. SUV, just a little false break here. Some okay volume in there, but probably a little small for me. BOT, Botanix Pharma, was one that really caught my eye because there's volume here, Chris. All that volume.
Yeah,
so so it's just kind of stepped up here a little bit there. So that definitely sort of caught my eye. I thought was pretty interesting. You can say look how choppy the volume is through here. Sort of a bit of volume there early in the year, and then it had a bit of a run there. But yeah, some good signs there for this sort of small one. I think there was liquidity in that stock too. So unlike PEK where it was very liquid. DGL actually also, this is sort of one that's sort of been sort of building here. I know sort of I think the sort of the CEO sort of there's like the major shareholder. It's like 50-60% of the stock here, so pretty tightly held. Had a pretty good run there last year, and it's cooled off here. But just sort of one to watch here. Just sort of maybe building here, I just like the signs there. Just a little bit of volume starting to sort of come in here. Kind of broke above this last little high there, which I think is a good little signal there. Definitely one to sort of keep an eye on. Do like that one. SXG. I thought this looked pretty good actually. This is a little VCP in here, Chris. I know we're sort of below our 50-day moving average there, but it does have a history of sort of chopping back and forth there. But it's had a bit of a pullback there, a bit of a grind here. The one thing we're not seeing there is the volumes aren't really outstanding there. So because we've got heavy volume there at the start there, sometimes we want to, if we can farm that out, have a look at it there and see if volume still. So not bad volume through here, pretty light through all this decline here. So we'll probably want to start to see some volume come through here, but definitely one to keep an eye on there. So that's interesting. LGP was number 23, Little Green Farmer. Just a few little pops in here on some okay volume there. Pulling back on light volume, probably a little small, but maybe starting to build here. Interesting. GBR. Again, a little small here, but sort of building a bit light. I think LNR was late in this again, a bit small, a bit late. I think EMD. Had a bit of volume there and had a bit of a pop. So one to sort of keep an eye on there. Obviously a bit of a gap there. Bit messy, hard to trade there, but I thought that looked okay. CGS is sort of one where it's a pretty messy chart here, but we're definitely seeing a bit of volume starting to come in here. And I thought the chart looked sort of interesting there from bigger picture there as well. So just might be coming in a bit late, that volume, but And the last one here, this one really did catch my eye actually yesterday, just because of this volume here, Chris. So again, we're sort of on a big long downtrend here for quite a while. but it has sort of rallied up here and then basically did break above that little B wave zone there. So we're always looking for it to at least break a swing high there. So yesterday it had broken above here, and then the volume there for the last 3 days was pretty big. And if you actually, I think they actually put something on the 27th there, APX, about, because at the moment everyone's talking about GPT chat, or AI. So that's really the flavour of the week. Even I was talking to a few clients about the GPT chat as well, and a few clients are actually using it in their business, and sort of everything I'm reading online about it is they're saying it's amazing, and then people I know locally using it, saying it's even some students are using it maybe for the wrong things, but it's interesting just sort of the AI space. So notice the APX there, Appen is he put something out about obviously around motorized vehicles and stuff there. So a bit of a forgotten stock here, because it's been in about downtrend for quite some time here, but definitely a bit of a global leader in that AI space there, just a maybe forgotten stock here. So one that really did catch my eye, just that volume was pretty big there yesterday. So I'll probably give myself away here, Chris, but this is the one that I did.
You couldn't hold back when she started talking about the volume. You could hear it. Yeah. You could hear your excitement.
Yeah, the only problem with that move yesterday was such a wide range. The question is sort of where do you put your stop in there? So, so I sort of want to give myself a bit of room there. So normally I would have scaled up a bit larger, but I did buy it across a couple of accounts, just a sort of smaller parcel there. But it's had a good move. So, but this is quite decent. If you look at the weekly chart here, this is pretty early. So this has been a downtrend, nasty downtrend for a long, long time here. So again,
it's almost like what you were saying about Amazon falling, was it 95, 96%? It's had a fair go at it.
Yeah, it's just an interesting space that Appen are in. They're in the space there that everyone's going to be talking about. So, we're just talking off air there that I personally just went through and built a list of all the AI stocks in Australia, put that in a bit of a watch list. Mine's a little smaller than your list. You're going to send me your list. But yeah, definitely a space to look at here. Keep an eye on there. It's very topical. There's always a new sort of fad coming. What's the new sort of growth area? So this is one that definitely caught the eye, just because I think it's right in the area that everyone's talking about. Has been a little forgotten here, and the volume here is telling me, oh, someone's woken up or gotten active, or something's happening here which might bring the stock alive here. So volume's the key, so and also breaking above the B waves here as well. So breaking above sort of swing highs there, breaking above this high again here today is another good sign. So that's what we want to see. We want to see new highs and volume, and so this is definitely one that's going to be on my watch list here for a while, just because I think it's right in the right space there that everyone's talking about at the moment.
Well, that's definitely, it's been getting the headlines, it's getting investment, getting more investors and funds looking at it and feeling they're deficient, especially in Australia, because like you noted, you've got a list, but a lot of them have a small market cap, and some of them don't even have any weight at all in the Australian infotech industry. So is this really something that Australia and Australian funds are very heavily underweight?
Look, I just understand like the old leaders won't be the new leaders, so there'll be a new leadership. So I'm always sort of thinking, okay, where's the market? What's the market getting excited about? There'll be a new, obviously when buy now, pay later sort of first came on the scene, that was a new area, and the market got excited by that new area. So what's the sort of new business there? So everyone's getting excited by this AI and these sort of so it's just a few there. I noticed that I think AIM is another stock in that list there, or in our AI list. They sort of think around sort of language and captioning from video and stuff there. So it's an interesting sort of space. But so I mean, to me, that's one area which can sort of grow. I mean, the other one which is sort of hot at the moment is biotech. So we've seen, Clinuvel, sort of Polynovo, PME run there. So I thought this was a really interesting chart here, because if you remember, Paragon basically, this is sort of before that 2020 top here, had a bit of a pullback here, quite sharp, had a second pullback, a third pullback. So there's our sort of VCP pattern there, Chris. And then it started to build here, and we got a bit of volume. And look at the drive there. We had, I mean, the last leg up before the leg was pretty decent. So, and then we got a nice little drive up there. Yeah. So really, you know. So last thing on the chart here, we had a bit of a pullback here. So a bit of a pop here, bit of a pullback here, had a bit of another pop here, bit of volume, bit of a light volume, medium volume on the way up here. Probably slightly heavier there than I'd like to see. But then we've seen a nice volume here pop up here, and then we saw 2 or 3 weeks here, no volume. So it's sort of finally, the sellers are finally sort of drying up here. And the last few weeks, we're just starting to see a bit of volume coming through here. So I thought, wow, this is a leading sector. It's a sector that's been on fire here since October. Been probably probably the leading sector out of that October low. This is sort of starting to build here. So this is one that definitely caught my eye.
I know, you sent me a chart earlier in the week. So I'll give you credit. You caught it before that recent pop.
But yeah, it was just a sector. You've got to try and keep in touch with the sectors that the market's sort of warming to as well. So yeah, keep your ears to the ground. What's everyone talking about? What's everyone getting excited about? What are the leading sectors in the States as well? So you're always looking at some of the momentum sort of traders in the States. What are they trading? What are the leading stocks over there? So it does sort of filtrate back here. So yeah, so those are things to looking at. But yeah, still plenty going on in the market. A bit choppy out there, but still a few trades here. I'm just sort of, again, not holding things overly long, but yeah, definitely looking at a little bit more growth here, momentum at the moment. So yeah, it's a few things sort of happening there.
Well, it's good to hear that you've been able to go through the list, pull out your favourites, find some good charts, find some trades to place. And that's probably a good point to wrap on that and say thank you again for sharing us with your insight on these detailed charts of both momentum leaders and the launchpad leaders.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for getting me that list early too.
Well, if you want to see the list that is earlier in the video, you can wind back there. We'll put a link down below. You can also on the right-hand side see Gary's Tuesday list where he goes into detail his trades and his portfolio. Also on the right-hand side at the end, there will be a link to the strategies that Gary's talking about. Volatility, contraction patterns, VCPs, springs, those kind of things. There's a whole series of playlists there. Finally, on the left is Gary's Twitter handle.